about scar care and pleasure. Um, so, my training as a somatic sex educator and sexological bodyworker really, I think, solidified for me a path in which I felt like I could bring to other people the kind of support that I had gotten having erotic, I don't care for the word healing, but alignment support. And bridging that with the science of somatics and the queerness of magic, and gave me this opportunity, I would say, to find ways to bridge these things together in the ways that I know from my experience, in the ways that so many people have taught me, and that I've learned through doing. And when I started doing somatic sex education, I really loved working with gender. I was in the middle of my own, a big chunk of my gender journey, which is, you know, it's our whole life because the world. But I was starting to present as a man for the second time in my life, and this time in a very different way than I did when I was in my early 20s, and had a lot of feelings about doing that to my body and kind of not wanting to, and also committing to. So I had all these tools that I was gifted and discovered and created and was taught, and put those into my somatic gendering work, which I loved so much doing. And as I was doing that work, I really yearned to be working with the body more. People weren't booking me for sexological bodywork, and folks didn't often feel ready to move into body work, and we always move at the rate of your trust. So I know that the erotic work that is non-touch is something I enjoy, but it does not fill my cup. Touch work fills my cup. It's what allows me to be sustainable in this work. And I knew I needed to shift my focus to more physical activities and connection with my client base. So thankfully, enough people came up to me and were like, okay, but why aren't you doing scar care? You've been trained in scar care. That I started looking at that. But then I realized that nobody was doing internal work. Nobody was doing genital work because it's considered sex work in this country and my country. So the entirety of this continent. And I was like, fuck that. I'll do it. That's ridiculous. What other training do I need to figure out? Thankfully, between trainings in genital de-armoring and the scar care training that I got via Helen Heed, I was really set up, I think, to go ahead and head down that path. And I'm so glad I feel like it found me. It was like, this way to the vulva doulaship. And for the first year, I only worked with folks who had had genital surgeries, and that overwhelmingly ended up being trans feminine folks, or folks who had been assigned male at birth, or however one might identify this kind of configuration of tissues. So, and I fucking loved that, and it filled my cup. And then I had so much more spaciousness for all of my other clients, and just fell in love with doing the scar care, and was chomping at the bit to get down to New York to Marjorie Brooks' straight method trainings, because I wanted to expand upon the scar training that I already had. And what I love about Marjorie's stuff, she's been doing this for like a couple of decades. She's quite the fucking firecracker, and I'm definitely playing with more fire these days. So that appealed to me. But with her work is she believes strongly that you don't only do the manual scar care, but you also teach stretching so people can stretch their bodies back into the shape of alignment that they're seeking to move into. And so you have the manual scar care, you have the stretching, and then the acknowledgement of what shape the body has been, and where you're wanting to go, and what like mechanical changes do you need to make in your day-to-day to support that adjustment. So one example might be she'll do a lot of scar care work on a foot, but only if you're willing to exchange all your shoes, because the minute you put your foot back into your shoes, you're now going back into the shape where the pain was, and so everything's going to go back to where it was-ish. And so I loved this holistic approach. And of all the scar care trainings that I saw out there, nobody else that I found was doing something so completely holistic. And I watched, it was during the end of the pandemic, and I couldn't get down to New York, and I was, she wasn't doing the trainings, and I watched every single fucking video of hers I could find, and blessed so many of my clients that let me like learn with them and teach me with their bodies. And oh, wow. Yeah. Like I said, fills my cup. And then this last spring, I was finally able to get down there and do some more training, and then kind of further that whole exploration. And it was, I worked on, it was several days, and I worked on so many scars. Holy shitballs. It was awesome. I mean, scars that were, 4 or 5 decades old, and we got to see changes happening. Scars that were due to injury, scars that were due to cancer, scars that were due to birthing, scars that were due to, emergency versus elective scars. Like, what a different class. Oh, you took her class? Oh, that's awesome. I'm so delighted to hear that. That's awesome. Oh, let's talk. Please message me. I hope you message me. We should talk. Yeah, I love her stuff. And I really adore when we get to bring multiple modalities together. I think that the creativity there is just endless. And so I've been blending my somatic sex education background and the focus on pleasure just meaning what you want to move towards rather than the thing you're moving away from. So you have directionality, which I think is really aligned with Marjorie's stuff, and that bringing pleasure into the work of scar care. Because when I'm doing, let's say, something like genital de-armoring, it's the same. They're different scars, like different types of scars that are seen, scars that are of the skin tissue versus scars that are of our nervous system. Like, it's transferable skills here. So when I'm doing something like, let's say, genital de-armoring, and we are working with pleasure, we're inviting pleasure into the body. I will note that we've already done hours of building up trust and safety and comfort. Moving past that, I'm going to jump fast forward. We're doing touch work, and we're working with pleasure. So somebody knows what they're moving towards just as much as we are wanting to move away from, let's say, tightness of the vaginal canal or anal sphincters. And one thing, like how that kind of manifests, I hate that I can't show y'all stuff. I can't put that stuff on here, but how that might look, close your eyes and imagine with me, is, let's say we're doing like work around anal trauma, right? And so people who have anal trauma there's clenching, right? And you can't relax. And so we're not doing any penetration. That does not exist within this parameter and paradigm. So that is off the table. So that never has to come into somebody's concern. But we are doing massage. We're doing softening. We're reteaching the nervous system that this can be pleasurable and this can be safe and it can be comfortable and we can desire it. And so when I'm doing that, let's say I'm massaging the buttocks and moving in towards more anal regions, things will soften and tighten. And as that is happening, as the body is responding, the nervous system is responding, my hands are noticing that. So when there's tightening, I move away. And maybe I come back to massaging the back, massaging the legs, around the hips. I tell the body, like, hey, I'm not there right now. Come back to pleasure. This is where we're at. You can relax. You're safe. You're comfortable. And then once things relax again, then we can start to slowly come back in. We just move at the speed of trust of the nervous system and the body, and we start to come back in. And then when I sense tension, we go back out again, right? So I'm taking this skill set that I have through Somatic Sex Education and that entire lineage coming from Body Electric and elsewhere, and scar care through Helen Heed and Marjorie Brooks, and I'm kind of swirling them together and inviting pleasure, and that may mean something as simple as breath that allows us to relax, or it may be erotic. There's a continuum. Each person gets to decide what their body is going to want. So that's a whole nother talk. So when I'm doing scar care, let's say top surgery scar care. Now I want to stay with the genitals because people aren't talking about post gender related genital surgery. Another one is like hystos and C-sections and like I've got like scars from sexual trauma. Like we have scars in these areas for a myriad of reasons, right? So when working with this, there's the manual therapy, and there's also inviting the entirety of the nervous system to be with this realignment. And so as I'm working with, let's say, vaginoplasty, and there's this lovely, beautiful, new, handcrafted, bespoke vulva in front of me, and me and the client are working together to notice what does she want to move towards? What feels good? Where is the pleasure? And as we do that, I am usually using most of the body for massage and erotic touch, pleasurable touch, or we're with our breath because that's bringing pleasure and we're breathing together. There's many different options here. And as I start to move into the scar care, I'm feeling for the tension. And when I start to notice tension, I move back away. And we wait until the breath is back with us and things are relaxed, and then we move in again. And so I often think of it as like this ocean wave that is coming into the scars and away, in and away, and inviting more of the nervous system, more of the body to be a part of this care and this realignment and creating a sense of safety. Because there's the manual scar care of the tissues, right? But there's also the scars that aren't of tissue, the trauma that your nervous system has been through. And we know that people's nervous system, our nervous systems, feel more than we used to think that we did during anesthesia, right? So your body's going through physical trauma. You're just not processing it, right? So I think that there's so much tension that lives in our bodies that we can work with as though it is scar tissue, because it's trauma responses that's living in our nervous system. So, yeah, just wanted to kind of share that because I feel like folks are often really confused when I talk about like why pleasure in scar care. And it reminds me of like, oh, why include the body in therapy? This separation of like, oh, I live here in my brain, as though my brain isn't part of the rest of my nervous system. The same thing, like I hear folks who are like all gung-ho and religious about somatics, and they're like, oh, fuck my brain, what the fuck does it know? And I'm like, your brain is actually part of your nervous system. Like, you're just replicating the same separation. Please stop. How about it's an integration? And I think similarly, if we can, especially for scars that are deeply emotional, which most of them are, and certainly have impacted the rest of our bodies in so many ways, and that often doesn't get acknowledged. And I think that it's really important that we allow that spaciousness. And I know the difference I've seen when I'm with somebody who, is so excited for their beautiful new vulva, and also is kind of freaked the fuck out because it's freaky, like in a like, oh my god, my body, even if your brain is just like, fuck yeah, this is everything I wanted, your body's like, wah, and I'm not talking about everyone, like everyone has their own experiences, but often often, like our brain is like on board, but the rest of our body is like, excuse you, that was abrupt, So I think that bringing in pleasure as a tool to invite the rest of the body into the scar care can be just as, I do not care for this word, but I'll use it anyway, just as healing and supportive as the manual scar care itself. And as I said, that can look a variety of ways. So every once in a while, I get a fun little message from somebody that's like, hey, but can it look like this? So I encourage you to use your wild imagination, or just pull the first thing that comes out of your head and just message me and ask, like, could it look like this? I think I might want this. Maybe. Could it, like, how would I do that? Where would I even begin? I love that question. Where would I even begin? So it's that invitation of pleasure, I think, can make all the difference. If we're asking our bodies to release tension, and we're doing it abruptly without including the rest of the body, then that's a tall order. That's why I fell in love with Marjorie's stuff. Like, she's not using pleasure per se. She's using body mechanics, and we use stretching, and we use these kind of, physio type supports. And I think with that, we should be adding pleasure, because that tension is reminiscent of the tension from the trauma. So we don't want to replicate that, right? We want to acknowledge it, be with it, hold it, and then encourage it to melt away. So it's part of why, like, when I'm doing bottom surgery, scar care, or trauma scar care, whatever scars there are in the lower regions, maybe it's a hysterectomy or cesarean, which are their own unique traumas for sure. But there's tension not just in those areas, but like, where does one usually hold tension anyway? Is it in your shoulders, And if I know these things in advance, which I work with clients to figure those things out in advance, then I know to look for those. So if I'm here and working on, let's say, a stomach, and I see shoulders start to raise, like, I move away, right? Okay, we've got too much tension. We're bracing, we're protecting, and that's beautiful. And it's being overused in this moment. It's not necessary, but we have a habituated protective response. Good, body. Thank you. Very helpful. Back down. So moving away. So knowing those things about ourselves. I spend a lot of time before I even get anywhere near scars on the rest of the body, just kind of like, what's going to make you more comfortable? What's going to make you more relaxed? Like I said, before I get to touch work on scars, any scars, I usually spend at least an hour, often 2 hours, on building a sense of safety, a sense of trust and comfort, and doing practices that allow each of us to trust each other. Because it's scary for me, to be doing this work in a way where it's like, a lot of my queer cultures and communities are very pro-sex work. And that doesn't mean that they want to see sex work like this. They want to see sex work live in this one particular way, right? But my experience has been to have so much realignment in my body, especially because so much of my trauma is related to my gender and sexuality, to include the erotic and include pleasure in my care, so that I make sure I know what I'm heading towards. So I love to be able to invite that in with my clients. And I had a client recently ask, like, oh, do you ever regret working out of your home? And I haven't yet. Please don't give me a reason. But I did so much healing in other lesbians' living rooms. And I just always, I don't know about always, but I want to be providing a similar atmosphere. Like, this is my lesbian living room, like this. You look around here and you're like, looks like a dyke's house. Well, yeah, no kidding. And so that's for me, you could say, but it's also because I'm coming from this way of knowing. This is my lineage of knowing in care work, is to be held deeply in the depths of my water on couches, next to kitchens where we're making food together. And yeah, so anyway, it was a little segue. So scar care and pleasure. So right, well, pleasure. So placement, I really dislike using a massage table, to be quite honest. Like, I find it clinical and it's not fun. And I've made my my treatment room I don't like that word. Anyway, I'm working on it. Words. I've made my treatment room to be as non-clinical as absolutely possible. And I love that. And then I set up this massage table and I'm like, ugh, this feels so clinical. So at least it's like it's like this color pink. It's like bubblegum pink. So that helps. And my sheets are purple. They're lavender, of course. So that helps too. But I really prefer the groundedness of being on the ground. I don't know how else I'd say that, so I'll move on. But pleasure, getting ourselves more and more comfortable, like, oh, how many of y'all have sat in way too many fucking clinical settings, uncomfortable, so uncomfortable. Oh my God, if I have to put my feet in one more set of stirrups, it's awful. Stare at another white ceiling. That's why I put the stuff on the ceiling in there, because I was like, oh, I'm not going to make y'all do that. That's awful. I mean, sometimes they put like a cute poster or something. I feel like at best, if you get to go to like private clinics, maybe they've actually done something with their ceiling, because fucking capitalism and money, and you can do that. So that's why I've done that. But what makes you just a little bit more comfortable? This comes up a lot in my masturbation coaching as well, is just taking those few extra moments to notice, oh, would I be a little bit more at ease if the lights were lower? Would I be a little more comfortable if I had pillows under my knees supporting them so I wasn't holding them up? Would I feel a little bit more comfortable if my hair was up and I wasn't worried about it getting stuck, I don't know, somewhere? Would I feel a little bit more comfortable if I locked the door, even though I know no one's home? You know, like, and just giving ourselves these little things, like they add up quick. So imagine that in the realm of scar care as pleasure, like making sure that we're in a space where we can make ourselves comfortable. We've been through these deep, dense fucking traumas, and I don't think it's too much to ask to do the care work, the aftercare work, with ease and pleasure. And I want that for us. And I feel like, especially like with a medical system that is built for efficiency, given what it is, that makes sense. Pleasure does not factor in most of the time. Like, that shit has had to be advocated for. And I think everybody who has done any work in supporting getting that, the nurses to the patients, you know, who've made that happen. So I want to make sure that if you're coming in to do care work on your trauma, whether your trauma is a physical scar that I can see and work on, or feel and work on, or it's traumas of your heart, of your nervous system, of your spirit, of your soul, of your lineage, you know, like, same fucking thing. How can we make this more comfortable? How can we make you feel a little more safe? How can we slow down to really make sure these things are in place before we do anything? And I want more of that in the world generally, so I'm trying to model that. But yeah, I had a really beautiful, two really incredible scar care clients this past week that really, we have built up some trust over the last little bit, and each of them came in just ready to do the work, and that they knew after several sessions, they knew what they needed for safety, for sure, and they knew what they needed for comfort, and they were able to ask for those things because we've practiced them having use of their voice and naming what they want and being met by me in those desires. I often tell my client, if you can ask for it, most likely I'm available for it, but I'm not going to offer, because that's not part of my job. In fact, it's very much my job to not offer. So I have clients who email me saying that they want a thing, and I'm like, great, that's beautiful. When you arrive, ask me for it. Tell me that's what you want. We'll do that, you know. And they come in and they can't ask me for it. I'm not going to take your email word for it. Like, you got to be able to use your voice. So let's back up and talk about, what do you need to feel safer? What do you need to feel more comfortable to be able to ask for what you want? So much of my work is just slowing down, which is ironic if you know me personally. A little bit of a wee. I move at a high rate of speed. So yeah, but that's one thing I do. I really, that's very yummy. Like, when someone's coming in for, let's say, ecstatic touch or sexological bodywork, or just sex work, and they're like, okay, this is what I want. And they're able to tell me, and there's clarity there. And I love that. And also, when I ask, where do you want to start? How do you want to start? And they've got nothing. That's another moment of, okay, great. Yes to this thing. I'm available for it in this way. Let's back up, slow down, and figure out how you want to start. So much of this, like, we can move at a high rate of speed, and also it has got to be at the speed of trust and safety. And I prefer comfort as well, even for things that are uncomfortable, because this work is often deeply fucking uncomfortable, but that doesn't mean you have to be uncomfortable about doing it. those are separate separate realities at the same time, right? I can be very comfortable about the trauma work that I'm currently doing, and also, like, deeply uncomfortable with the work itself. So, which I've been experiencing a lot lately. So, for myself, I'm just doing some deep diving on my coming out stuff. So, but yeah. So, again, if you have questions about scars, any gender-related scars, let me know. Hit me up. Feel free to ask me. I do sessions online. You would be surprised how much I can teach you about your scar care online that is specific to you and your body and your scars and your traumas. So, which is far different than, looking up something online, which you can do too. I definitely suggest that. So, yeah. I've been wanting to, here's a question for y'all. So I've been wanting to host some scar care circles with Coda Rook out in the wild. So this is often things like I teach folks how to do their own scar care, because I feel like much of this does not need to live in the hands of a practitioner, especially when so many of us don't have the resources to be able to pay for practitioners. So I love to just take the information. I mean, I can give you all the information in the world, but at some point you need the hands-on practicum for certain types of work. So I love teaching people what they can do for themselves and for their loved bodies. I really adore it when people come in with either their partner or their roommate who's helping them through their surgery, like aftercare. And let's say somebody's had an orchidectomy is you take the balls off. And let's say they have a hard time reaching, maybe because of flexibility, maybe because of a back issue, maybe because of fatness, like whatever the fucking reason, doesn't matter. Like, I have a hard time reaching. But the scar care, like, it's going to make a difference to do it. So inviting our care teams in to support us, like sometimes it's more than just making a meal or wiping our ass. Sometimes it's actually supporting our scar care in the like 6 to 3 month aftermath, or further depending, So I love getting to teach people how to offer scar care to their community, to their loved ones, to their friends, their kith and kin. So if you know of a local LGBT, queer, trans focused org in your area that might be interested in hosting us to do a circle on gender related scar care, we're wanting to do that. So that would be amazing. So we're going to be in Newfoundland in December, and we're looking to do a circle out there. So if you know folks out that way, could you please connect us up? Because it's a tiny little space out there, and I feel very far away from that area. I'm so fucking excited to be on like the most eastern side of this country that is also its own entity and not this country. I've been reading a little bit about. It's very fascinating. I love learning about the places I live. But so if you know folks there, also Ottawa is another place. Like I make it out there pretty regularly. I've got like a handful of clients that drive 2+ hours to come see me. So I've been thinking it maybe makes sense to like go over there once a month and just see everyone in bulk. But I was thinking while I'm there, maybe we could do scar care circles for folks who have gender related scars. So if you know locations that would be willing to rent and orgs that would be willing to support and bring in bodies, that would be amazing. Or if you want to bring us out to your neck of the woods, send me a message and let me know where you're at. You might be surprised. Just say like, oh, I'm in this place. So, and we'll see what we can find out. But I would love to be able to connect and love to be able to share more of this work and teach anybody who wants to know more. So, okay, I'm going to stop yakking. I love y'all. Thank you so much. I'm so fucking happy to be able to offer this care. It means the world to me. So, cool. Back to Iowa. Okay. Oh yeah, Coda was in Iowa. Coda did their training with Margie in Iowa. Iowa. Yes. Did you do the training with them? Who is this? Pickled? That's a cute name. Pickled. Am I saying that right? No. Yeah. We come back to Iowa. Do you have an org that's going to be able to support that? So I will say, turn towards university orgs. There's money there often. But also, like, nonprofits in the States are different than nonprofits here. I feel like nonprofits in the States often have more funding than they do here. Depending. That's a wide brushstroke. Don't take that for anyway. There's generalities there that I'm not going to bother to dig into, but yes. Oh, okay. Yeah, they did yep, I see what happened there. Awesome. Yeah, that sounds great. Yeah. And then we're going to so we'll have January and February where we can do some, archives, library. Yeah, connect us up. January and February, we'll have some space that we can travel. And then March, April, and May, we're going to be in Mexico. So if there are places that you know in Mexico or just over the border, Texas, California type area, or further south, into Central America, then let us know. We're happy to try and figure it out as best we can. So, and if we're coming through anyway, we're happy to just do a thing. So, okay, now I'm gonna go. All right, love y'all. Bye.